Test your knowledge of graphic design and follow along to see if I do in fact improve these designs with my knowledge and also experience. This is the before and after graphic design series here at Satori Graphics. But first, let's have a quick short warm-up exercise. So here is a logo symbol, or as some people might say, a logo mark. Now it's a generic logo I downloaded from Envato, and I want you to choose one of 4 outcomes after we take a look at the background of a possible brand that it represents. Now if I tell you that the logo mark belongs to a real estate agency who mainly caters to upper middle class clients, what sort of logo type outcomes do you think would fit this design? So this real estate agency is an established firm within their industry, and they really do mean business and they're serious. So bearing all of those things in mind, which of these 4 designs do you think would best suit this kind of brand, and more importantly, why? Well, let's take the far right design first. Does a bright pinky red color fit into the real estate business from a color psychology stance? No, not really. The logo type is okay, but the title case style with that capital E would come across as maybe too informal. The design to the left is even more informal with a fully lowercase logo type setup. And then on the far left, the decorative logo type kind of conflicts with the robust nature of the logo symbol. However, the serif solution on the chosen design matches really well with the fact that the brand is high-end, well-established and serious. If you pair that with a sans serif font, then we do have a winner. Yes, it's somewhat subjective, but the aim of this warm-up exercise was to get you thinking about design choices and why they are made. Take this poster for a tech innovation event. When it comes to my redesign, I'm going to think firstly about what kind of emotions I want my viewers to feel. In a previous video, we looked at possible emotional triggers that designers and marketing agencies use. And one thing I want the viewers of this first design to feel is a sense of exploration. This is because new tech and new innovation would imply venturing into new experiences and almost like a new world. I also want the viewer to feel a sense of awe and appreciation for aesthetics. Now that might sound kind of complicated, but let's just get right into it. Now as you can see with the original design, the poster doesn't jump out and make the viewer feel in awe, or shall I say, visually impressed. It doesn't trigger a sense of exploration and new things, well, to me at least anyway. So, with that in mind, I decided to ditch the flat style of illustration because it doesn't really align with my emotional triggers. This design is about innovative tech, and so I want to make an epic design that captivates viewers who appreciate such technology. This image here is a good starting block, also because it does communicate that sense of exploration and discovery that I want to get across. So my first move was to overlay some carefully chosen imagery and play around with blend modes in Photoshop. Yeah, believe it or not, I do have some rudimentary Photoshop skills and I'm not just a vector nerd. And I wanted to build up a design that is quite epic and awe-inspiring to look at for tech enthusiasts. Something that communicates innovation and a sense that they are stepping into a new world. And after playing around with all sorts of images and effects for some time, I landed on this background base image. But it's time to add some typography, and for the typography we want an epic and innovation style, and so this sans serif works just fine. And I think the font I used here was Basement Grotesque Black. And then some body text, and yes, this would be legible if it was printed out and in the viewer's hand or on a poster wall. And then finally, to finish off the tech theme, the date in a very kind of sci-fi layout at the bottom. And for this I used the font Satori Regular. So the guy's body language and facial expression, when matched with the lighting behind him and neon colors, is very awe-inspiring and it communicates exploration. And that's exactly what I was going for. Putting it next to the original, I think my design is a lot more effective in this niche and it communicates to the right audience in a stronger way. Let's run with the idea that we are designing social media posts for an urban streetwear brand. Now here's a simple social media post without any typography, and now we need to use 2 different fonts on this design. So what do we do here? What would you do? Taking a look at the style of the fashion and just the style of the design in general, and the fact that it's an urban streetwear brand, we would assume the design is on the unconventional side and aimed at younger people. So for a heading and also main typography section, how about something unique like this? The experimental font chosen here reflects the edgy and contemporary vibe associated with urban streetwear fashion. Its unique shapes, irregular lines, or unconventional style captures the essence of street culture and adds an element of authenticity to the design itself. And when it comes to pairing it up, what do we do then? We can opt for one of my go-to favorites, Aileron, but not because I like it, but because its clean lines and modern design lack the decorative flourishes of serif fonts, and also it's not contemporary and edgy like the main heading is. And this makes it an ideal choice for a secondary text that needs to be clear and easy to read. This simplicity ensures that the focus remains on the main content while providing a structured visual hierarchy. We can also use bolder versions of Aileron and pair them with thinner versions, and that works on areas on the design like this. So here is a design I grabbed from Freepik, and I think it's trying to sell Italian cuisine. But what do you see wrong with this design and what would you change? For me personally, there is a lot wrong here actually, and that starts with the typography layout and the font choices. And I have no clue what this 20% off layout is all about. The design as a whole needs a lot of work in my honest opinion. Now I wanted to make a fresh and a clean design, as that is often the best way to market food to people. They often want cleanliness and simplicity when it comes to their food. So I wanted to give the typography a lot of white space to breathe and to work with, and I started with a nice clean sans serif typeface. The heading on the original is so bad and so confusing, or it is to me anyway. And you will see at the end that I do change the size of my typography, as it's pretty much way too small here. But yeah, continuing, I added a small graphic to represent the Italian flag. And this isn't just to make this section look interesting, it is going to be a good way to spread colours out across my design, as you will soon see. So next we have the order now and the website typography in a neat section here, and that just makes sense to me as a designer. And then of course we continue to neaten the typography up below. The 20% off typography needs to stand out in a good way, and so I've added that here with this graphic in green. Again, this isn't finished at this point, but if I set the actual finished design next to the original, you can see the difference. The Italian flag graphic has allowed me to spread red and green to other areas of my design in color harmony. I like the clean and simple layout for my design, and I do think it solved a lot of problems we saw in the original. This is my personal style of design though, but whichever way you look at it, I do think it's an improvement. So here's another quick challenge or quick exercise for you with this design here. It's another download from Envato, and apart from a few changes to some wording, this is exactly how I downloaded it. That is apart from color. I want you to try and visualize this design with color being used. But let's take a look into the background of the brand and gain some insights. The brand is exclusive and high-end, the ingredients are high quality, and they want to express luxury. With all of those things in mind, as a designer who wants to express these emotions and sentiments to the viewer, what colors would you use? Again, there isn't one precise correct answer. There could be a few that would work, but there are for sure many wrong answers. So the two main colors would be black and also gold, mixed with some white as well. But yeah, black has connotations of elegance, being fashionable, sophisticated, and also sleek. And then of course gold is all about expense, luxury, and its rarity makes it exclusive. Always think about what the brand is trying to express to their audience, and then what that audience will want to feel. Now, I'm a pretty busy man and I never learnt to code. So one way that I managed to create websites or marketing materials that actually look good is by using Framer. Now me and Framer go back a long way, and things are easier than ever with Framer. So one thing that helps me saving time in my workflows is the library of over 700 templates on Framer, and this simply just gives me a bunch of starting options. So for example, this 3D template is looking pretty dope. Now like I said with Framer, everything is just so quick and easy to do. Now I can make my social links here way more interesting compared to the static appearance they actually have originally. Coming to the effects panel, I can just put in a hover effect.
There are some settings to play around with, but if we then come and hit play, just look how smooth and how neat this animation looks. And what, just a few seconds to do, right? But if you really want to draw attention to your CTAs, I personally like the loop effects, which just constantly play out on your website. Now these will surely drive more clicks than not having anything animated on your website, that's for sure. Now there obviously are a bunch more different tools and features to use with Framer, and if you want to see what creative websites and materials you can make with Framer, just click the link in the description box below of today's video.
This is a double page spread from a furniture brochure design. Now it might look slightly off to you for some reason, but can you see why? The reason this design looks slightly chaotic and not very professional is simply because the imagery and the textual elements do not consider proportion. And so, to help you, I've created a few easy to follow rules that you can apply onto any design that will help incorporate the principle of proportion effectively. Firstly, when adding imagery onto your designs, consider using the similar aspect ratio. To perfectly illustrate this, let's consider the context of a portfolio website design. Adhering to a consistent aspect ratio for displayed images, example 3:2, will ensure a unified and aesthetically pleasing presentation. This consistency prevents visual distortion, and it creates a cohesive visual narrative that aligns with the design style. It adds to the unity and the fluidity of the design, and let's face it, it just looks better. So we have a pretty basic poster design here on the screen. If we then make one crucial change to this poster, as you can see here, what would you say has been done to this new design? What graphic design principle has actually been implemented into this second design on the right? And so if you're not aware of all of the graphic design principles, I do suggest that you look back at my older videos or just check elsewhere on the internet and do familiarize yourself with all of the graphic design principles. If you can master those principles, they will elevate your designs to new heights. Okay, so the hand and the light bulb on the design on the right is actually using flow. It's going to lead the viewer's eye upwards towards the top left, like so. Flow is all about the movement and direction that you lead the viewer's eye around your graphic design, and it just makes the composition look really neat and effective. So you can see here that the viewer will see the focal point of the hand and the light bulb, and their eye will be ushered up to the top left. It also makes a nice clear diagonal divide across the design, and this also creates a nicer focal point because it's slightly larger and it's just a lot neater than the focal point beforehand. We're actually going to be focusing on these call to action social media icons at the bottom. So there are two different things that we could change to this section here to make it more effective as a graphic design. So I want you guys to think, what could we possibly change to this area to make it more effective to the viewer and as a design solution? What would you do here? Okay, so the first thing I've done is that I've actually made every icon a circle. Now, you might be asking, Tom, why did you do that? They were perfectly fine being a square. There's actually quite an interesting reason behind it, and I'm curious to know if you know why I did that. Sure, they would work as a square, but they actually are more functional as a circle, and here's why. So if you notice on my design, there actually are quite a lot of circles in the cucumber and the illustrations running down the middle. Having the icons as circular shapes creates repetition. Now, repetition is a great way to reinforce an idea through a design, and it just ties everything together in a neat visual harmony setting. Sure, you could have them as squares, and that would create contrast, but you might want to create harmony, and using circular options here would be useful. And yes, there are going to be some people who say, oh, squares give off contrast, and that makes it more visible. It does come down to the designer's subjective choice at the end of the day, but I'm just using this as an example to show you what you might want to consider in your graphic designs. And so the second thing that you might want to change is actually the color of the icons, because these are call to actions. These need to stand out, and these are the things that you want a viewer to click on or to notice. And so have them as green, yeah, it does tie in the design together, but they won't stand out as much as a orangey red as you can see here.
And again, this is just a small design subjective choice that you might want to be making on your designs. Now, if you're not too sure what Marmite is, it's a pretty obscure kind of spread to put on toast, stuff like that. The common consensus is that you either love Marmite or you hate it. There's no in between when this stuff is concerned. But what about this advertising design? What would you change, and where can you see that it falls down and falls flat? So when I first saw this design, the first thing that struck me was the lack of hierarchy in the typography itself. I'm always talking about hierarchy on this channel and how important it is to add into your graphic designs. It adds structure and alludes to the important parts of the design, and this design has zero hierarchy in the typography section. Also, I think the slogan has been really lazily added to this design. It's kind of just slapped at the bottom like this, and it just doesn't look good, in my opinion. Finally, the layouts is something I want to work on my redesign, and that should complement my kind of typography choices. So let's take a look and see what I actually mustered up for my redesign. Because the design was landscape, I really did not like the top to bottom layout, so that's the first thing I addressed. I put the Marmite itself on the left and then the typography on the right. I think this just looks a lot neater, and it just makes sense to me as a graphic designer. And then of course we have the hierarchy. I've added the final line in white, which is really striking. It kind of just adds that interesting factor to the design itself. I decided to forego the brown text because I just didn't like it, even though it does relate back to the brand in some way. And then finally, I added up that slogan just below the main logotype. And this is the use of proximity. It's putting together all elements in one kind of area that relate to each other. And I put the slogan in a thinner kind of normal regular style font. What do you see in this design that could be improved, and what do you think about it in general? I personally think, even though this design is a professional design, I think the typography is pretty lazy again. There's very little hierarchy, and the alignment is kind of not well thought out either. I like the fact they kind of stacked it to resemble the thin shape of the bottle, but I do think there's a lot of room for improvement here on this typography. The designer also missed a trick by not including the red somewhere in the typography solution. Linking colors from the design to the typography is one really great way to unify a design, and the red would be something to create emphasis in the typography. So here is my design on the right, and as you can see, I did make use of that red to allow the reader or the viewer to know that it's coming soon, because it's right there striking you in the face. I did play around with Antonio Thin and Antonio Bold for the typography solution, and that created some hierarchy on the money back and also the great taste. I didn't want to change too much on this design because I think the kind of concept was good as it was, but I just thought the typography needed some tweaking, and also the use of that red I think really sets off the design. So next up we have a design that has a really good cause behind it, and that is promoting the awareness of the kind of lack of sanitation and basic needs in certain parts of the world. Now right off the bat, I do like this color scheme and the minimal kind of design concept here, but I think that having the whole of this block of text in yellow completely doesn't work. That is 4 lines of text in yellow, and it's kind of a bit difficult to read, if that makes sense. It doesn't stand out in any kind of form of hierarchy. It would be nice to allude to the fact that one person dies every minute, and make that stand out as the main focus for the draw or the hook for the viewer to come into the design. Now I did want to use their font because I think it does relate back to the illustration style, but I couldn't find it and I didn't have a font that was similar in my font book, so I just used a sans serif font like this. So instead of having 4 lines of text using the same color and same font, I went for 3 different lines and I used hierarchy in several different ways. I think it would look better if I had access to the font they used in the original design. But as I said earlier, having that one person dies in a bold, different color and different size solution really does work, and it's really hard hitting. And again, I didn't want to change too much on this design because I think the concept was really solid as a whole. Now I want you to focus your attention on the left hand side in the blue area. What do you think might be a problem from a technical design viewpoint when thinking about space? Now you might look at the design and think, well, it's in fact okay, there's not much wrong, and nothing really needs to be worked on. However, there is an issue, and it's based around something called micro whitespace. Now whitespace and negative space are different things, and mainly in today's video we are thinking in terms of whitespace. And micro whitespace is the space between the small elements like letters, text lines, paragraphs, icons, and buttons. So if I make some small adjustments while considering micro whitespace, you can see how again small changes equate to a big difference. So the micro whitespace between each line of text and also the visual elements below has been increased to bring a more harmonic and clean design solution. And all of this is while making it easier for the reader to obtain the information. But I couldn't help myself and I had to add in some contrasting color for this call to action button. But yeah, side by side, it's pretty obvious to see how thinking about micro whitespace can really improve a design. So this product packaging and the promo design is utilizing narrative design in a huge way. With the design, what did the designers conclude in step 1 of the narrative graphic design process? Remember, step 1 is where they have to define the purpose and the message. Now I'd say they wanted to convey the Japanese culture, but in a humorous way that appeals to younger people. Furthermore, the narrative is, if you buy this product, you are buying into an exclusive part of Japanese culture and experience. That's the story. The next step is to consider psychology, be it color, shape, imagery, typography, whatever it is, just consider the content from a psychological point of view. For the Doritos design here, they could have simply just laid out the product over a picturesque scene of Mount Fuji or something like that. But that isn't going to tell the story they aim to tell, and it would actually fall flat to a portion of younger audiences. They've gone for a manga-style graphic novel design to target younger people, and they've included humor within it as well because we can see these two sumos really going at it over the Doritos. The colors are impacting and relate to Japan and also wasabi. And the third step is to try and include a visual story arc. Now, a visual story arc is a sequence of visuals that unfold a story. It captures the audience's attention, and also it kind of builds anticipation as well. Now on this design is pretty blatant because we have a graphic novel sequence, but it can be more subtle than this if you see on this design here. A story is essentially a continuum, it's an expanse of time going from A to B. But if you want to learn more things about leveling up as a graphic designer, just click that video on the screen. But until next time guys, design your future today. Peace.